Okay, carrying on. We can use a pattern rule to describe the relationship between the two columns in the table of values. Alright, so we've got two columns, right? So input has a separate column, and the output has its own column, so that's just a regular table or chart. And if we look at that, we can kind of get some clues as to what kind of input-output machine has created this table of values. Because basically when we look at the input-output chart, it was created using some kind of a mathematical equation. And that mathematical equation is inside the input-output machine. So there's some kind of numbers and there's some kind of operation. Operations are things like adding and subtracting or multiplying and dividing. And this particular chart probably is a two-operation machine. And there's a couple things that we should look at. When we look at a chart, we need to see the pattern. You know, what kind of pattern is there? So if I look at my output, that's basically, well, I can check out the input first, that's fine. Look at the inputs and I can see it starts at 1 and then it goes up by 1 each time. And then if I look at the output, I can see that it starts at 1 and then it increases by 4 each time. Alright, now there's a clue here. Whenever we see a chart like this, we need to look at the output and see what kind of pattern there is. And since it's going up by 4 each time, it's a clue about what we should do in the first box of the input-output machine. So I'm talking about right here. Look at the input-output machine. I'm drawing a square around the box. The pattern that you see in the output gives you a clue as to what the first operation is. Okay? So basically, I want to take a look at this and think, what kind of operation would be in there? So if I look at that, I can see that if I look down here, I'm looking at the think part right here. It says the pattern rule for the output is start at 1 and add 4 each time. So what kind of, if I have an input of 1, there's 1 as my first input, I'm going to get an output of 1. That's my end result. I'll have an input of 1 and I'm going to have an output of 1. And it goes up by 4 each time. So I've got to try and figure out, what's going to happen here? So what operation could I put in there? Well, here's the hint. In the first box, the first place where we put the operation, right here, our first operation is probably a times 4. Okay? How do I know that? Well, I'm going back to my pattern. The pattern that's in the output gives me a clue. So I'm going to try it. I'm going to try a times 4 in here. Times 4. Maybe I'll use a different color so you can see it better. Times 4. Okay? So I'm going to then do that with my machine. I'm going to run part of it through. So 1 times 4 is 4. Now, remember, my output is a 1. So how can I get from a 4 to a 1? The only way that I can do it, well, there's maybe more than one, but I'm going to try this one. I'm going to try minus 3. If I go 4 minus 3, I'll get 1. Okay? So that's the first part of it. But I have to check with my second input. Is the second input going to get me to 5 using these numbers, so I'm going to erase these input and output numbers. I'm going to leave the operations in there. I got to erase the middle one too. And then I'm going to try the second input. And I'm going to see if I actually get a 5 as an output. Alright, so now I'm just going to run through the machine. I'm going to put the input in. 2 times 4 is 8. And 8 minus 3, it is 5. So it worked. I have double checked. Alright, maybe I should try a triple check. Let's put in the next input. 3. Okay, I gotta get rid of that 8. 3 times 4 is 12, and 12 minus 3 is 9. Alright, so that checked out. So I checked the first input, it worked. I checked the second input, it worked. I even checked the third input, and it worked. So I now know that the operations and the numbers in my machine are times 4 and minus 3.